Hello, digital warriors, and welcome to the Forge of Unicorn podcast, where we untap the digital potential of IT department in what truly matters nowadays, digital transformation, or as we like to call it, digital evolution. Today, joining us is Sam Palazzolo, a seasoned Version Capital that is also the managing director of a venture company that is called Tip of the Spear. Sam has an impressive pedigree, and I'm really eager to get into the discussion with you, Sam. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, man. So, Sam, before we dive into today's topic of unicorns and ecosystem related to digital transformation, I would love that our audience understand a bit better about you. Because when I was studying your profile, I was impressed about how many organizations you have worked with. If my notes are correct, I see that you have worked and collaborated with over 1,000 organizations, both domestic and international. And it was a wow moment, a jaw-dropping moment, let me say. And also I saw in the list that you have worked for a monster for us that we are crafters, like Toyota and General Motors, and now you have your own venture capital. So these are remarkable results, and I would like that you help us to understand a bit better your profile.
Yeah, thank you. It's inspiring to hear it read back to me. It's hard to believe that all of those things occurred in one career, but no, I think my career span has gone across corporate America, Fortune 500 organizations. I've worked consulting. I'm ex-Deloitte, and I've also provided kind of an entrepreneurial type endeavor. I've led about 5 different startup initiatives, 2 of which we took to exits. It was shortly after that second exit that we formed the family office, which is Tip of the Spear Ventures. We behave like a venture capital firm. We also behave like a private equity firm. I should also note that my primary business today is working with leaders and their organizations to help them scale. I've scaled organizations from 1 to 10 million, 10 million to last year we helped our second organization cross over the $1 billion mark. So that's my primary business today, is helping leaders and their organizations scale. And we try to do that within 3 different industry verticals, although I'm an industry agnostic consultant. So the industry verticals, again, tech, finance, as well as healthcare. But let's get into more.
Good. Awesome. I love that you work with organizations, helping them to scale and grow, and that you have the real experience, not the typical experience that we observe time to time of people that they are monster on their spreadsheet, but the hands-on experience. Because what we will discuss here today is the research about is possible to make engineering culture that is creating unicorns with a formula that is predictive. And
Right.
So you have this experience because you are a growing company. So I'm really excited of how it will develop today's discussion. Do you have, before starting, any hints about how can you smell the culture of these companies that they are ready to become unicorn? Is anything that you feel when you go into this room that is the smell of the forest?
I think there's a couple of things that we look for. Obviously, the primary mission, what the problem is that the organization is setting out to solve, that's obviously the initial filtering, right? Either we're interested in doing that or we're not. And I think we've gotten better over the years, over the last 13 years of working on projects that we weren't trying to chase money. We were looking to make a real impact in either one of those 3 industries that I mentioned, tech, finance, or healthcare. There's a number of things, and we'll get into it from a culture as well as from an entrepreneurial perspective. What are the key characteristics that these entrepreneurs should have present? Not only the I think I can, but the actual behavioral, I actually do this on a day in, day out moment. I want to say that we capstone our strategy of how it is that we help organizations and their leaders grow, the tagline is real strategies, real results. That's what we're looking for in the people that we work with as well.
I like you cherry pick the word of behaviors, because indeed, what we have found in our research is that indeed there are some behaviors that are stopping organization to grow. It's like you put the pesticide on your field, then the soil is gone. The unicorn will never arrive. So let's go into it. I would like to observe something at the beginning. It's the first observation that since when I started to work in IT, it was in stark contrast with my software and telco background of an engineer. And the observation, especially due to my background in Formula One and MotoGP, it was that, hey guys, IT, even if you are an engineer, doesn't feel as being an engineer. Where are all these addiction to quality, to design, to best-in-class patterns, standards, regulation? If I look for a comparison with healthcare, with automotive, where standards and regulation are everywhere, in IT, there are not. There are some posture of security, okay, something is there, but there is not a stamp like a TUV from Germany about this software is well crafted. Did you find this controversial as well? Because we have software everywhere nowadays, from the watch to the dishwasher to the car that is more a PC than a car. I see that a Tesla like a supercomputer on four wheels, a beautiful supercomputer, but its software is everywhere and is related to what we do. And we don't have a standard of quality. Isn't funny? Sarcastically funny.
The short answer is yes. Did I find it? Of course. By this point in my career, working with over 1,000 organizations, I have seen just about everything, right? You know, I as an ex-Deloitte consultant, one year I tapped out at 50 out of 52 weeks traveling on the road. So have I seen it? Yes. Here's what I find, and it may be an overarching type of a comment. I'm happy to dive down deeper. But when it comes to some of these capabilities, you need to have subject matter experts at each position. But it doesn't excuse the other leaders within the organization from not having and not getting firsthand exposure to what those other subject matter experts are working on. So in other words, today, we're working with organizations to help them architect their artificial intelligence strategy. What is it from a policy, procedure? Think of it a lot like a cybersecurity program, which not only do you architect for the organization, you work at upskilling the workforce so that way they can adhere to, but what are the penalties associated with in the event that people are people and they don't pay attention to, maybe sometimes purposefully or without purpose, they violate those types of artificial intelligence rules they could put into place, those types of things. Artificial intelligence, the majority of the organizations that we're going into, most of the leaders look at that as this is a chief technology officer or chief information officer, an IT role and responsibility. It has nothing to do with us over here. And that's common, and that's a common misfailing.
Yes. I have a beautiful article that I released last week about the latest research, 2 years of combined research, the state of the art of research on Gen AI applied to code generation. And the data are everything but not fun, encouraging, and making company to say we will become a unicorn because we have Gen AI. So indeed, because there are not regulation and standards, is like the Far West, is really an unregulated field where everybody can tell I'm the king or the emperor, because nobody knows how good looks like. And this is an interesting observation that we have after 14 years of doing screening of profiles for our customers. So in these 14 years, we have screened roughly more than 100,000 developers. With the software craftsmanship dojo, that is the open source project that everybody can use to assess the goodness of software and IT departments out there, it's clear where is the bar of quality, high level. But still, high level, not of a unicorn, because you have to grow up from this baseline. So let's say that this baseline is what we expect as an engineer that joins a company. Below this is mediocrity. So the data that we have collected in these 14 years are really dark, because less than 3% of the candidates, they have the technical skill to pass our graduation test. That is shocking. And a lot of people in HR and leaders, C-executive, when we were discussing this about their hiring pipeline, they look at us like, no, it's not possible. Your data have an error. You have missed a 0 on the right. Nobody, we didn't. So it's 3%. But then we start to help them to understand development is not a one-man band show. It's collaboration. So if these engineers, they don't have the social attitude to collaborate in a team, they do more harm than gain. So we start to integrate the sociometrics of social engineering and social psychology into our test, because in our team there is a psychologist that is specialized on this field. And with this data, this marker, the number below went below 0.9%. That is a shocking number. So less than 1% on the market are engineers that they have social and technical skills capable to join a unicorn. But a lot of C-executives, they don't know it. I'm curious if you have data that are similar to this, or which is your perspective as a capital venture and an expert on the field, on multiple industries, more importantly.
Yeah. It's shocking, the statistics, the 3%, the 0.9%, just under the 1% threshold. It's shocking, but I should say it's not surprising. And your venture capital community and your financial investors, be they early stage seed funding investors, high net worth individuals, angels, call them whatever you want to, they are all sitting on dry powder, and they're getting smarter. And by that, I mean that they look to identify what is the talent level within the organization. And maybe backing up even further to that, we've talked about AI before. The vast majority of folks are sharing an AI story that simply doesn't exist. It is your basic LLM database management of old. There's nothing new and exciting from an AI perspective, but it is so unforgivable, and you can't get attention today if you don't share that you're using AI. So back to your question, though, because I want to make certain that we stay on point. What can you do when you go into an organization, from my perspective, in my business growth programs, that they simply do not have the skill level present to be able to get them from here to there, from here to there? We do a couple of different things in assessing an organization. We analyze it in a quick readiness assessment in a true Deloittean methodology. We analyze 5 different pillars. One of the pillars is leadership and stakeholders. Leadership and stakeholders. Because people it's not just a slogan, it's the real deal, are an organization's most important assets. What they choose to do with those assets is up to the organization. The days are over where you can expect someone like you and I to go, and you and I have enough paper from colleges all over the world. At last check, I have 8. It's no longer the scenario where it's beholden upon the stakeholders within the organization to go out and find that type of an educational journey. It needs to be architected organizationally. And most importantly, the education should act as an upskill for the employee, given where the goals are structured for the organization and the processes and the technology that are going to be adopted therein. So So one of the things that we look at, where is everybody at? And at what skill level are they at? And what can we do then? So I previously was talking about upskilling, organization development, training, call it whatever you want to. These are the things that can help upskill a workforce. But most importantly, it's holding leaders accountable towards making their teams have impact. And the quickest way of doing this is by holding one-on-ones, effective one-on-ones, not let's get together and have a cup of coffee, not how are things going, but really highly structured and strategic conversations within a one-on-one that makes individuals, the stakeholders within the organization, held accountable. Leaders also need to be held accountable. So just because you're a leader within the organization doesn't mean that you get a pass on the accountability when it comes to upskilling as well.
Yes, I like the concept of leadership that I have to put the skin in the game, because it's also echoing with our research and the discovery that the third issue that we see in company is indeed but the leadership is silently accepting mediocrity. What I mean, we saw a lot of companies that they don't embrace modern alignment and purpose framework like OKR. But OKR meant not as a rewamp of KPI showing vanity metrics to the board, but OKRs to set up bold goal of the organization becoming a unicorn and using key results to drive behavioral change into the labor force. But to do that, you need a leadership that needs to be connected strategically with the board and tactically with the people. So a leader that doesn't put the skin in the game will silently accept the concept of mediocrity. And statistically, in a behavioral engineering point of view, what is mediocrity? Is the combination, the compound of the behavior of the people that are working in an organization. If, due to lack of standard, due to lack of talent, because we have this scarcity of talent, the larger majority of people in a company are mediocre, the behavior, the compound behavior that is the representation of the company culture, de facto, is a culture of people that they behave as mediocre. They cannot be in the Champions League. And if the leadership doesn't challenge them and they accept them, we have a football team that is playing not in the Premier League, but is in the Dilettanti. But the board is thinking that they are playing in the Champions League because they provide money for the Champions League. So this is an intriguing aspect that we are observing. I want to understand from your point of view as an investor, as somebody that has strong hands-on experience working with board and organization, how do you feel this dichotomy of investors that are believing that they have invested in a Champions League team and a team that instead is behaving like dilettanti? Do you see it as a pattern? Can you tell us some experience?
Yeah, I love the concept of mediocrity is a silent killer within organizations from a culture perspective. So I mentioned that we have behaved like a private equity company or a private equity firm in the past as well, and we continue to. You know, we always think of entrepreneurs as a startup, right? Launching something new. But there's an initiative out there which is titled Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition, ETA. This was developed, or the concept was captured by two professors out of Harvard, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern. On an annual basis conduct a conference whose focus is on entrepreneurs who, rather than want to launch something from scratch, can purchase an existing business. So entrepreneurship through acquisition is the term. In one of the organizations that we acquired, we went through and we adopt the policy that every associate is basically applying for their job all over again. Regardless of tenure within the organization, each individual is basically applying to go to work for our new organization, which was their old. And what our attempt to do during these interviews is to lower the water table. We are trying to eliminate any places to hide within an organization. And I learned this technique from my years at Deloitte, where I had to account for every 6 minutes of my time. And it wasn't that my senior partner was attempting to micromanage me. Part of it had to do with our billing structure, right? How are we going to bill someone like Sam out? But what it really had to do with is the effectiveness of the individual. You want to talk about previously in the previous question and answer, we talked about accountability. You want to talk about building in accountability and, more importantly, performance. There is nowhere to hide if you are doing this type of a application for your job. And let's take a look at, don't forget, I'm an accountant by training, so I love numbers and I love to see dashboards of performance. I want to find out if they're a vehicle, for example, how many miles do they have on them? What's their tenure? What's been the maintenance records? What have they had done? And how fast are they capable of going? But what is their average speed? And what is it that they accomplish in a day in, day out type of a situation? How far are they able to travel? With these types of metrics or that type of a dashboard created, instead of it being a dashboard within a vehicle, it's a dashboard of performance for the individual. We can assess on a grade level, A through E, who the players are within the organization and their performance level. We also then get to make an assessment because they're interviewing for their jobs. And I told you that I would hit on a couple of the things from an entrepreneurial perspective when it comes to investing in an organization. What do you want to see present? Well, one of the things that we want to see present is not only the knowledge level, I'm competent at what I do, but we also want to see a commitment. In other words, not only am I competent in what I do from a knowledge perspective, but I actually pull it off. It is my commitment to the organization that I execute. This is everything behind our impact.
I like how, again, behaviors and awareness is a common theme here. Now I will show you something. You were talking about time and billingness. So this is what in the dojo, in the software craftsmanship dojo, we help developers to understand how they use their time. Because 8 hours are 16 pomodori. What can you do in 16 pomodori? It depends on your ability to manage the time, the noise, the focus. And when we start to observe what is going on in a typical corporation, they are very far from 16 pomodori. But they were not aware at the beginning. So it's intriguing how mediocrity and accepting it without challenging it, without striving for elite or striving to become a unicorn, is indeed probably is the trenches where everything starts to fall apart. Because what we observe is intriguing, especially in PVC, when you acquire a company and you understand that they are more mediocre, let's say, of what you were hoping for. One of the options is, okay, we undergo a digital transformation. That is a common theme that I notice almost in a lot of players. What we observe with our data, and we intersect the data with McKinsey, Boston Consulting, and these kind of big players, is that how many of these digital transformation are really successful? Where success means a return of investment. We have invested X and we got a payback of 2X. The number is shocking because it's less than 7%. But how much money is invested yearly in digital transformation? So nowadays, last year, the report is that was invested, probably not invested, but let's say wasted, $2.5 trillion worldwide with a success ratio of only 7%. And you were touching the point of AI. The forecast for 2027 due to the AI revolution, this hype that everybody is chasing AI, and if you don't have AI everywhere, even in your toothpaste nowadays, you don't get customers, is creating an environment and a scenario where most probably we will reach around 4 and 5 trillions in digital transformation. And this to me is shocking. So, do you see this happening in some of the acquisition that you have done? Do you have any thought about it? What shall we do in order to make this digital transformation more successful?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in our quick readiness assessment, we analyze the 5 pillars of a business. One of those pillars is technology, right? The thing that we've come to identify is that, and is it a people moment? Is it a technology moment? Is it somebody in procurement who's just buying too much? But we find that with technology that is employed within organizations that we work with, roughly 30% of the capability of the software is being leveraged. In other words, on a 100-point scale, they are only utilizing 30% of it. So again, whose fault is it? Is it the sales department or an overly aggressive acceptance of what's being sold to them? Is it a budgetary we need to spend? Is it a vendor issue? But part of doing a good tech stack assessment is the attempt to identify not only what percent utilization is there out of potential. Previous example, 30% out of 100. We got 70% left to go. But what can we do about it? And if we didn't switch vendors, if we stayed with the same vendor from a software perspective, what can we do to impact that 70% that's out there as potential, but we're just not tapped into? We've gone out to those software vendors and we've asked them for education that can help increase utilization. We've structured training programs within an organization so that way the upskilling of the workforce occurs. We've also outreached sometimes and identified, you know what, you have way too much machine here. You don't need a Lamborghini. You just need a Toyota Corolla. You need basic transportation from point A to B. So what other type of software vendors are appropriate that are out there that from a budget perspective, we have, if in your example, you noted that $2.5 million or $2.5 trillion gets wasted annually and you're projecting $4 trillion. We've saved organizations millions of dollars in their tech spend, right? By doing just that one pillar from an efficiency perspective.
Yes, and this incredible because people, they don't realize that trillions start to be units of global GDP. So 5 trillions is almost 4% of the global GDP that is wasted. It's like 4% of the worldwide population is working for nothing. It's unbelievable. And then indeed, something that when I look at Ferrari, for instance, if you purchase a Ferrari, you purchase also the driving academy. Because you cannot drive a Ferrari if you are not a driver that is able to handle a car that is built for racing. A lot of these organizations, they undergo a digital transformation for what? For the hype? For trying to satisfy with vanity metrics the board? So these are the questions that indeed we found a lot of time unreplied from this organization. And the awareness moment was pretty shocking for everybody. Because nobody has because of death as an answer. Intriguing how you also are confirming this. Because the point that we are observing is like a sad ripple effect of this perpetual digital transformation that are failing. Because if I look at the last 2 decades, how many digital transformation we can count on? It was agile at the beginning and then scaled agile and then DevOps. Now there is AI. Then what it will be in the future, near future. General AI, quantum, you can mention it. But I guess digital transformation will continue to affect the market. The market is in perpetual chase of something. Which are the consequences on people? Because we said it at the beginning. So an organization is people-centered. If we don't take care of the people that are working in an organization, the organization is doomed. Like all the organizations that in the 2 decades before, they were swept out of the Fortune 500, that are more than 55% now. So what are happening to these people? We have started to track the repercussion of this emotional trauma on people with 2 indicators, disengagement and burnout. And we have research that are telling us that the disengagement nowadays is stable at roughly 77% of people are disengaged, silently or loudly. And there is nothing worse than a silent quitter, because you cannot understand that they are underperforming. And if they are underperforming, how much is the loss of productivity worldwide? From the research, it seems that only last year were roughly $9 trillion in loss of productivity. That is roughly 9% of the global GDP. So we are talking between the digital transformation and the disengagement, or roughly 15% of the global GDP that is wasted in people trying to chase technology without keeping care of the humans. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, again, shocking, but not a surprise that we have disengagement and we have burnout. I'll head on the first one from a disengagement or an engagement. What can you do? So when I was with corporate Toyota Lexus, one of the groups that we worked hand in hand with was the Gallup organization. Gallup, famous for a lot of their polling, but one of the things that they do from an engagement perspective is the Q12 survey. And now you can argue with the Q12 survey and the 12 questions that it asks therein regarding relevance. However, I'm going to side with Gallup because they have done this survey by now a few bazillion times. Like, one of the questions is, do I have a best friend at work? Look, you can argue with me that a best friend. Come on, I don't have best friends at work. This is professional. This isn't personal. But according to Gallup and the study and the bazillion people that they've interviewed through Q12 instrument, if you have a best friend at work, you will enjoy work more. Your retention rates will be higher. The organization will benefit from employees advocating on behalf of the business. It's just not a marketing and sales department's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility, right? So if you're looking to identify and establish a baseline metric regarding how are we doing when it comes to engagement, Q12 is wonderful. Q12 compared contrast with a dashboard, as we previously shared and talked about, made up of key performance indicators or metrics that matter for the organization, driving towards goal attainment. These are the things that help drive engagement and diminish disengagement. Flip side of the coin, burnout. I just interviewed Abigail Ireland, and we talked a little bit about, I wish I was in Hawaii right now, and how the importance, and Abigail is a performance enhancement expert for leaders. If you think about your capability or your abilities to go on vacation, to shut down, to get that all-important rest, this is what's paramount, not only for leaders, but for stakeholders within an organization.
Yes.
You know, we often think of vacation as, and if you're a high-performing leader, what would I need that for, right? I'm working 100+ hours per week. I can put wind in my sail at a 20-minute nap. I don't need to go on vacation for 2 weeks. But here's what happens. And one of the companies that we're investors in is a healthcare, it's a nutritional supplement that a couple of PhDs out of Harvard attempted to identify what is it that an Olympic athlete has that the normal individual should have. The things that will actually enhance performance, that will enhance output and production, enhance impact. And believe it or not, one of the 6 supplements that they came up with is something that looks to reduce anxiety and increase focus. Reduce anxiety, increase focus. Why is that important? And you don't need to be an Olympic athlete to think about it in this fashion. The more you are focused on what it is that you are working on, the better your results will be. But it doesn't alleviate the need to be able to unplug. This coming from the guy who, look, 100-hour weeks, it is an eagle badge that I have worn squarely on my shoulder.
Workaholic here.
Correct.
Both of us.
And I don't know about you, but I didn't lose this hair through heredity. Okay. It was a lot of ripping out, banging it against walls, right?
Me neither. Yes. Yes, I got 2 cancers, so yes, I know what I am talking about. And indeed, let me rewind a bit, because then I go emotional talking about my private life. But the Gallup is indeed the research that we are using, and we have double checked with our behavioral expert, both engineer behavioral and expert and psychologist expert. And the engagement report of Gallup is super accurate, because it's really providing a stark picture that is telling the utopia of the board that we have happy employees because you put the table soccer in the coffee area and everything is gone. It's not real. So disengagement and burnout are 2 social issues that we need to battle, starting from the board to the field. And how I do, indeed, due to the legacy of surviving 2 cancers, and because I am a professional judo and jiu-jitsu trainer, I work in a way that I do the same amount of cognitive stress on my body and on my mind to keep it in balance. Because if I stress only my mind without my body, I will go sick soon. And so I have a very strict routine where I do 3 workouts a day. When I do the workouts, I destroy my body. And when finally I recover with my body, I destroy my mind. And then I go to sleep with very precise cadence of sleeping. Otherwise, I will go out of sync soon. But yes, absolutely. What you told is indeed what me as individual and also the research is absolutely confirming. We need to help these employees, these leaders, to understand the consequences of neglected well-being on people.
Hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do in a 24/7 connected employee-employer relationship.
Absolutely. Especially because the market is pushing. The market is providing us probably even not a gentle push, but a harsh push. Probably the market is poking companies that they need to evolve. Because if we look at the evolution of digital disruption, there is the fantastic book, The Anticipatory Organization, that is talking about or you are a digital disruption or you chase a digital disruption. And if you chase a lot of companies, and this is the last observation we have on the field, they are embracing the cookie cutter or the blueprint. They try to emulate the others. Copy paste. This was working in that company. Do boom. Do also here. Do agile. Do safe. Do DevOps. Do AI. Do whatever. But they don't understand that their people, they are stressed. They are fatigued. We are burnout. They are disengaged. They don't have the tools to upscale. It's like putting a barbell of 400 kilograms on your shoulder and you never had that opportunity to train your squat. You are smashed immediately. And this is indeed, and this fascinating how you are connecting all these 6 bullets in your experience as individual and as professionist. Do you have any other observation that you believe we have missed in the cluster of the 6 effects and consequences of a market that starts with no standards, and ends with a lot of problem in the cookie cutter copy paste pattern. There is anything else that you have noticed?
Yeah, I know that we had a conversation about agile tech, scaled agility, DevOps. These types of business school guru speak. If we employ them, good things will come. And I can tell you, yeah, you have almost as much luck having success therein as you might by following one of these social media gurus who's promising you the moon and the sky, and let's throw in the stars as well. And it's all for a low, you put a price tag on it, but it's expensive, right? Because the moon and the sky and the stars, that's expensive territory, right? It's expensive real estate. So here's how we do it. This is our sniff test, and it goes back to my corporate Toyota Lexus days, where Toyota was really good at reverse engineering. They would go out and they would find the best of. They would bring it within lab. The engineers would strip it apart. They would identify what the uniqueness was that made that the best in class. And then in a reassembly perspective, they would look to make something better than what was just best in class. And so the opportunity exists. I mean, one of my tech startups, we adopted agile technology. The book Lean Startup Methodology that's written about Toyota is the one I should have written, but I didn't because Eric Ries beat me to it. But it is one of those things where you've got to have some type of a best in class that you need to reverse engineer and back into. And if you do that and you customize towards not only what it is that you're attempting to do, but who it is that you're going to have pull it off or execute, that's kind of where the customization magic comes into play. Simply adopting a generic strategy will get you generic results. Customizing a generic approach for what it is that you want to accomplish, that's where we see organizations really starting to achieve scale. And it's just not a multiple. I mean, it's a great feat to 2x an organization. But imagine if it was an exponential, a 2 times the same number. That's where big growth comes in, and that's where customization is at.
Yes. And do you see it as well that all this hype, all this recipe, all this blueprint looks like to me that you are paying for a supercar and they provide you out of the dealer economic sedan? And then you discover this doesn't look like the Ferrari that I was thinking that I had purchased.
Well, I would look at it from this perspective that you can look at any playbooks, and we provide playbooks we do a CEO Catalyst program, which is all about leaders leading themselves, leading their teams, and scaling their organization. We provide plenty of strategic blueprint playbooks, call them whatever you want to. Again, I would look at, because I'm convinced there's no new ideas. Every idea is already out there. It exists. But what the differentiators are is how you apply it. So maybe we're all given Lamborghinis, but it's up to the leaders, because the leaders and the stakeholders in an organization, they're the fuel. And based on the caliber of the leaders and stakeholder, you'll identify if it's a regular petroleum or if it's a high-performing petroleum base, right? Car will go faster, right? So maybe we're all Lamborghinis. Let's look at it from that perspective. That's a nicer thought, right?
It's a nice, and also it's an intriguing on human side concept, because it means that in us, all of us, we have the recipe of success, but only a few, they understood how to unlock the chef inside them to cook that recipe.
Right.
It's beautiful as a concept. I like it. I like it. I guess I will use more often in the software craftsmanship dojo. Indeed, we tell them a lot of time that this recipe is not new. It's something that the market knew since 20 years ago about extreme programming, about good quality in software, but somehow it got lost. We are helping them to cook the recipe properly and to become crafters, that they are creating high quality software in the 0.9% of the developers that are able to behave as engineers. I like how a lot of discoveries, observation, and art data that we have collected, they are intersecting perfectly your career and your observation. Do you have anything else that you want to share with the audience? Some interesting story, something that you do, because I understood that you have this program that looks really intriguing.
Yeah, and we'll put it in the show notes. Our Catalyst programs, again, these are the things that help businesses grow. We have a CEO Catalyst. It's focused at the leader level. And even if you're not a leader, maybe you just want to get the leader mentality, right? Again, the focus there, leading yourself, leading your stakeholders or your team, scaling the business. We also have a Business Catalyst, which is all about either through organic growth. It's back to those 5 pillars that I mentioned previously. And in our quick readiness assessment, we drive 90 pylons underneath those 5 pillars to ensure that we hit bedrock. It creates a prioritized list of what is it that we should work on and in what order, right? So we have a business catalyst. I also mentioned I'm a merger and acquisition managing director at an investment bank. If you're looking to achieve true exponential growth, not just a multiple, you've got to explore M&A, right? So we have a special M&A catalyst, each one of those types of programs. If you are a leader also, I'll share this much. This is the latest thing that we've been working on. If you're a leader who is struggling with your marketing and your sales initiatives, we have put the power of a Deloitte consultant in front of an AI machine, and we're getting some really fantastic results in a business development. Think of it as we're identifying not only target markets, individuals within organizations therein, creating introduction and engagement with, and ultimately having better conversations leading to sales. So if that type of a sales and marketing powered by AI and a Deloitte consultant are of interest to your audience, and we'll put the link in there, outreach, connect with me. Easiest way is through LinkedIn.
Yes, we will put in the description. Also, I guess there is the opportunity for the two of us to discuss about a technical catalyst where we provide you the research of the software craftsmanship dojo to create awareness on how an elite software development team should behave. This is something that indeed it can create some interesting opportunity for a lot of people and a lot of companies that we are helping both on different sides of the world. Okay, I guess we arrive at the top of the hour almost. It's time to close and wrap up. I would like to thank you, Sam, for the interesting and really insightful discussion. I want also to say to our listener that this is one more of the podcast of the spin-off of the Forge of Unicorns, fully dedicated to PEVC, to let you guys out there in the market that are you thinking to create your new startup because you have some idea that you want to productize in something innovative that can be the new market killer, the new unicorns. This is the podcast that can provide you the right partners. And Sam could be one of them. Sam, thank you so much for being a so delightful guest of the podcast. And see you next time out there in the field, helping this organization to become unicorns.
Oh, thank you for having me. Again, Sam Palazzolo, Real Strategies, Real Results. I'm excited. I can't wait till you and I meet face to face.
Yes, we will do. Guys, thank you. Listener, enjoy and see you the next episode, and keep you subscribed to the Forge a Unicorn, and every week you will get a new intriguing article about how you can behaviorally engineer the success of your company from a small startup to a unicorn. See you next episode and next blog post. Bye. Ciao, Sam. Thanks.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.